What is happening, guys? Edgy Outdoors coming to you with a new knife review. We have the Guardian Tactical Recon 035. I don't know if I'd really call this a full-blown knife review, but I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on this guy. This out-the-front automatic knife from Guardian Tactical. We have this knife in here for the last week or so, 2 weeks, and we've been able to carry it a little bit, and it's been kind of interesting, to say the least, as being really one of the few times I've carried an out-the-front auto. So without any further ado, let's just kind of look at some of the very interesting specs on this guy. The overall knife length is 7.75 inches. We have a blade length of 3.375 inches. We have a width of 0.75 inches and a cutting edge of 3.25. So it's legal in a lot of states from that perspective. The handle is fairly slim. It's 1 inch width for the handle width. The blade steel is CPM 154, which is kind of a nice steel for sharpening, staying sharp. It's still a good steel that quite a few knife makers are still using and use quite a bit. It's a pretty common steel, so I like the CPM 154. I wouldn't say it's the highest end steel, but it's certainly a good steel. Now, some comparisons. We have the Microtech LUDT. So there's very similar in size to that particular guy. Another auto, not an out the front auto, but another auto nonetheless. We also have, let's look here at the PM2 or the full size grip. That kind of give you a size comparison of the Guardian Tactical. The price on the Guardian Tactical, it really can vary, depending on the one you get. This happens to be the OD green with a satin stonewash, not satin, but stonewash blade. They have, and this is a drop point. They also have, dagger styles. They have full black blades, etc. Most of them are somewhere in that $275 to $290 knives. So overall, a pretty good value for that type of knife, for an OTF knife. Now, just to go through some of the features on this thing, we have some ceramic ball bearings in here that are really, if we look at one side, you'll see there's a bit of a patent pending here. If we look, maybe we'll look more like this. Patent pending. Part of that patent pending stuff revolves around the OTF mechanism. It is an extremely smooth and responsive mechanism for this type of OTF. You compare this to a Benchmade, for example, there's no contest. Microtech does an outstanding job on their OTF knives. This is certainly competitive to some of the Microtech OTF knives that I've seen. What they've done here that's a little bit different over some of the Microtechs and Benchmades is if you see that little shiny part that's shining back in your eyes, that is a steel plate, and underneath the switch, we'll call it a switch, is a ceramic ball bearing that keeps it from ever grinding into like anodized, which you'll get with some of the Benchmades or Microtechs, where this down in here you'll start to see streaks in the anodization, and you don't ever get that with the Guardian Tactical. I've also heard some interesting things about how the way the blade is supported when it's inside and when it, as it's being extended out, it's not being supported with steel on the blade, so you don't get the streaks. I haven't obviously used it enough to worry about the streaks on the side of it yet, but I certainly don't see any here. I had a Microtech and a Benchmade OTF, and you'd actually see streaks from where it was going in and out as steel was rubbing on steel. So this knife is not brand new. It came out, I don't know if it was 2018 or late 2017, I believe, but it's really kind of an interesting and exciting knife, and I'm excited to actually have this as something that I can do an EDC on. I love the stonewash blade in this particular case and the drop point. I think both of which, in my humble opinion, are what you would kind of use more for an everyday carry. They tend to hide scratches and marks a little bit better than the full black blade or even a full satin blade. The um, the way that Guardian Tactical really does theirs and the value they provide compared to a Microtech, I think it's a higher value in the in this particular guy than it is in the Microtech, for example, or the Benchmade. I think you pay for a Benchmade name. I'd really be interested. Anybody, please down below, write and leave a message as to what you think the best OTF mechanism and who makes the best OTF. I'd be interested to see. We'll bring one in and we'll kind of compare them here in a month or two when I get kind of a most requested OTF down below. We'll spend the money and do it easy peasy. So anyway, some of the good things I like about this, obviously the blade shape I think is great on this particular guy. The fit and finish on this thing is really pretty nice. When you go through and you see all the rounded and chamfered edges, there's no sharp spots anywhere, not even in the groove here. The switch has no sharp spots. Even the blade. I mean, the blade has one sharp spot right here. Not what I meant, but top of the blade, none of this has a super sharp spot that would create a hot spot. Maybe here at the lanyard hole, you've got some, it would be the most, but it's still even rounded. If you look closely, it's rounded at the hole. Where the pieces come together, I mean, you can't even feel it. You run your finger over it, you can't feel it. Maybe barely with your fingernail. This has been in my pocket with keys and other knives and a leather wallet, which wouldn't do anything. But, I'm not seeing any snail trails yet. I'm not seeing any damage to this knife whatsoever. So I think the finish is really second to none, or as good as anybody else out there. Again, the grinds are super even on both sides. You don't really get the smile on either side of this. You have a nice sharpening choil, so when this thing needs to get sharpened up, which it came pretty sharp from the factory, this definitely isn't going to be an easy to sharpen knife, and a knife that's easy to keep sharp. Has an A+ for fidget factor. The action on this thing is remarkable. The bend and then break mechanism. It's not so stiff that you wear your thumb out, or the jimping's not so sharp that you wear your thumb print out. After playing with the Spyderco Smock for a week or so, moving over to this, the fidget factor went way up because I didn't get the Smock thumb or Smock finger with this guy. He can just keep going all day long, making all kinds of noise to disturb your wife or kids while they're watching TV. It's a beautiful thing. So the ergonomics of this particular guy, I would say there's not really a whole lot of ergonomics to it. It's a bit like any of the OTFs. You certainly have jimping on the button that you can use when you're pushing. I don't know if I'd pull and do it. All of a sudden you'd slip off, but it's very smooth all the way around. So from a hot spot, there's none, but from an overall fitting like a glove in your hand, I would say the squareness is felt. You feel that there's squareness, but again, no hot spots, nothing like that. It's overall comfortable in your hand. I've only cut up some boxes with this guy, so I haven't really needed to bear down on it. I don't know that an OTF knife is one that I would do excessive abuse with, but certainly for my everyday carry needs, it was more than sufficient, and it was comfortable. I didn't have, again, hot spots or anything where my hand was hurting afterwards. So those were kind of the good things about it. Again, I love the blade. I love the blade shape and the grind. The handle and the fit and finish are great. Some of the only things that I don't love about this are really going to revolve around the clip. I don't like it when they put printing on the clip. In this case, it says Guardian Tactical. And not that I think people are getting close enough to my pocket to see Guardian Tactical on the pocket clip, but I'd rather have it be a little less assuming than having tactical written on my clip. The other thing that kind of gets me, and it's not really based off of any legitimate fear, but if you look in there, you can see the tip sitting super close, like almost flush with the outside of the knife. When I run my finger across the tip like this, I feel that tip. If I were to push hard, I'm almost certain, especially how sharp this thing is, I'm almost certain that it would cut me. Not deep, because it's flush or a little bit below flush, but still, it's like this nervous thing that I wouldn't want to rub my hand against it on accident, when you're pushing on it or something like that, and actually have it cut me. So that's just one of my few dislikes about it, and quite frankly, there is not much to dislike about this knife. I think being able to carry an OTF knife is something that should be allowed everywhere. I think the value of this knife at $275, and putting it up against a $250, $300 Benchmade or Microtech, I think it competes hands down, and some of their knives are way more expensive than this one, and not nearly as well thought out, I think, in some cases. So again, comments down below on what you like about the Microtech and the Benchmade. If you have a Guardian Tactical, I'd love to hear what you have different. This is really the first OTF that I have carried on a regular basis. I've had some in my collection, but being from California, I certainly probably don't have the experience that some of you guys have in carrying an OTF knife on a regular basis. So I'd love to hear what you guys and your input and share to the community that way. Anyway, that is really pretty much it for this knife. I certainly encourage you guys to click down below and click the subscribe button so you can catch all these. We have several more knives that we're going to be doing. We have some new Spydercos that we just got in that we're going to be doing some reviews on. We have some Spydercos coming that we're going to be doing some reviews on. So I encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below. We have a lot of testing that we're going to be doing moving forward as well. That's going to be a little bit different than the standard cardboard cutting, so that should be exciting, especially as the weather clears and we're having warmer weather. Thank you again, guys. Stay happy and stay sharp. Appreciate it. Talk to you later.